Welcome to what will be the last part in this short series where we are using a Holland playthrough to learn EU5. And the reason this series is coming to an end is twofold. The first one is, as I mentioned in a previous part, is the 1.0.8 update has now been delivered into the stable branch. And this contains a significant amount of changes, one which completely changes the gameplay. And the second reason is I feel that I've probably got enough out of this series to learn by learning the basics. And what I want to do now is reapply that knowledge in a new playthrough. So because I've got a few accumulative mistakes which make this series a little bit annoying. And I'll talk about those later on. Because in this part, rather than carry on playing, what I want to do is a kind of roundup of what I thought I did okay and the mistakes I made, especially with respect to the overall management of the economy. That's the reason why I'm bringing the series to an end, but it's not going to be the end of my EU5 journey. I will be starting a new series, and it's either going to be Castile or Hungary, simply because I feel that's the next logical step in developing my overall gameplay. So that out of the way, let's just get down to, well, I'm not going to do anything in a very particular order. I think I'll probably start with the beginning of when we actually first came in. And I think one of the early mistakes I made is I followed a recommendation to focus on marketplaces. And to be honest, upon reflection, I think what I should have done is invested a lot more into the RGOs, especially from the food perspective side, because you can see now even Leiden here has got negative food, which is not good. Although we are we're in May, so this should go. Yeah, what I've felt is that what I should have done is invested more money in those RGOs, especially in Leiden and the dyes over here. Simply because these would have given me a more sound foundation with respect to my overall income. And also Alkmaar here, well, no, not Alkmaar, where is it? Actually Amsterdam. We could have invested a little bit more in the livestock in this area as well. I think I'll let the game run at tier speed 3. So I think that was my first mistake. By following that recommendation to build marketplaces, I think before you really need to develop your markets, you need something to actually sell. That leads into probably an early mistake I made was from coming from my city building kind of strategic game. I didn't really understand chance of reports of death. Son has died age 54. He was Admiral of the First Navy. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to slow down. I don't want all those flashing up, breaking my concentration. Yeah, I think my biggest mistake, which also ties into the RGOs, is the fact that I didn't really understand the proximity bonus. I don't think I can show it in here. Detract might actually help me. If we come into here, what actually you get is a production. Let me just see if I can find it. No, you don't get it here. You don't get a production bonus in the tailor for the excess of dyes. Let me just see. Maybe it only applies to the location, because I'm pretty sure if you come in here, yeah, you can see that you get a bonus for dyes in South Holland. Detract is in South Holland, isn't it? Yeah, so why don't you get that production bonus? Yes, you do. I'm sorry about that, guys. Yeah, and I think while there is no direct relationship because the dyes are sold to the market and then come back in again, are purchased by the fine jewelers, I think being able to take advantage of that within the province. So if we come down to here, if we got exactly the same, we should have the same bonus here as well. Let me just see. Oh no, stop it, game. I'm getting a bit okay. I think this one is not actually, so this one is actually, I think it's using this one and this one. Okay. So that means that technically having this one in here, I know it's turning over a small profit, but to be honest, you're probably going to get a bigger profit. Now, remember, the profit relates to the price in the market. Let me just come back to here. Yeah, you can see that you've got a bigger profit by having the fine cloth produced in Den Haag, in South Holland than in Amsterdam. So in some ways that there's more advantage in finding something up here which is going which could be used a bit more effectively. Now the wow, so we're making like 5 ducats a month at the moment, which is not spectacular enough, but I think if I'd invested a little bit more into maybe maxing this out so that we were producing a lot more dyes, because I think there'd always be a demand for dyes within the market. But at the same time, I think taking advantage of that production bonus makes quite a big difference. And the other thing I would probably say is that you do need to give a lot more consideration to the actual industry type. But the other thing I've kind of realized is that obviously the game pre-curates all these buildings on a premise. So what I would say is that I wouldn't refine the economy now like I was trying to do until the Black Death's come through. Because I think if the Black Death's going to devastate your population, and it's going to take quite a few years to recover from it. And I think it's during that period when you can start looking very carefully at all your different, how can you put it? So you can start looking very carefully at all your different industries and say, right, where do I want to put them to get the maximum benefit to the overall economy? Let's force them to pay estate satisfaction. Don't really want that. A mild reprimand will be sufficient. Yeah, we're going to get anti-clerical. Now, we got this unpressed Casus Belli, which I was going to use in this part, but Paradox have managed to preempt it. So now I'm going to move on to, which I think is probably one of my biggest mistakes I made with this when I started out. And that is the Casus Belli. And I think if I go to, click on it, let's do it the quick way. Where's Brabant? We go here, if we go to declare war, it says no Casus Belli accepted. And I think, to be honest, spending time with the spy, let me just pause the game actually, spending all that time and diplomatic effort to get this humiliate rival Casus Belli is a bit of a waste of time, especially in the beginning of the game. And that's the reason why, because you've got this kind of plus 900% conquer cost for the attacker and subjugate costs for the attacker. That meant that even with 100% war score, I was not able to take the whole of Utrecht, which is what I really wanted to do. And this one here, this is Parliament approved claim on a province, which is Antwerp. That, if I'd done that onto Utrecht, I would have been able to do, as I've seen in other getting started videos in Holland, is what I would have been able to do is take the land here as I originally did, but vassalize Utrecht. So if I'd had been, and that's the difference that Casus Belli made, in the sense that instead of having just 2 locations added to the Holland, we could have had 2 locations plus a fairly reasonably powerful vassal up here. And I think that would have then opened the gateway when we got the rival Casus Belli or insult Casus Belli with Frisia, combining our forces here and the forces there, we would have been able to got Frisia up here. And I think that's kind of another reason why I don't really want to carry on. So I think there was a misstep there, and in fact, if you're considering playing Holland, I would suggest that when the first Parliament comes round, because of course what you can get is, yeah, when the first Parliament comes, I would certainly go get that Casus Belli. Just let the game run again. Get that Casus Belli, and then go to war almost immediately, because Utrecht is quite weak, and if you you can get in and bash them and take that over relatively early in the game. Because I think the other mistake I made with the aggressive expansion is the fact that I dithered around, because it takes a very long time. You've got to build 20 spy network, and then you've got to select the Casus Belli, and then what you've got to do is wait, I think, about a year before you can actually, while it's actually being generated. So it's a very tedious process. What that did is it took me too close to when the Black Death arrived in, what was it, around, was it 1345? And what that meant is that I was coming out of a war where I'd lost quite a few troops, mainly due to my own experience. And then that fed into making the consequences of the Black Death a lot more difficult. And what that made is recovering from the Black Death when it disappeared a lot more harder. I think getting in early, taking Utrecht with the right Casus Belli, so that you've got both these two regions, I would certainly definitely recommend integrating into North Holland, because they are part of North Holland. You can see the province here, and what that does is that would also give sturdy grains and also fruit. Fruit is turning into be a fairly profitable enterprise there, because it does, what it also does is it's you can see here we got Pop's missing goods, and what that means there. Anyway, I'm digressing, guys. So I would recommend going early to take Utrecht, not dither around like I did. So that was something that didn't go wrong. I think integrating Zealand early on was a good move, because that is kind of helped us along with the overall process. And you can see production efficiency, we got potential. So I think at the moment we are getting a fair amount of profit from there. Another thing that I would have done earlier is over here is automate the close and open buildings, because what that means is that buildings that aren't profitable, the AI will switch off, and that means you can move your workforce into more profitable areas. Another thing which is partly related to the 1.0.8 is that I think if we come into here, I think getting fishing villages, and I think there's a fishing wolf, but building a fishing village in Altmarts would make a difference, because you can see what that does is give maritime presence, plus it also produces food. So that would then help a little bit towards it. And I think also, which I'm kind of starting to warm to, is I think players, and I've noticed this in tutorials, that people underestimate the value of the market village as well for giving trade advantage, trade capacity, and also local food. So I think putting a few markets in this area would have made a big difference as well. Say, for example, probably Leiden here. Who's building fish then? I got a burger rebellion growing. Why have we got this here? Expand gathering in Leiden. Okay, this is being expanded. I don't think I'm expanding it. What else can I talk about with respect to how things go? I think I had a little bit too much fixation on the market here, and trying to get my trade advantage up. You can see we've got it up fairly high. I think long term that is a goal, but I think I went a little bit too early with that. Right, have we got, let me just see. So we don't have enough. So maybe expanding the fruit in here. So I think the marketplace comes after the Black Death. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the elephant in the room, which is the Hook and Cod War. Now, I thought that had been triggered by the fact that we didn't actually have a ruler. But what I've managed to glean is that is a random event that can happen at any time. So the hook and cod war is something that we're just gonna have to live with. But I think again, I didn't really understand the consequences of some of the decisions that I made, but I think I managed to get through it. But it is a real pain, and I think probably to get through it, you probably need to build up a little bit of a war chest, and also maybe build up the stability a little bit first, so that you've got a little bit of leeway. Now, one thing I have noticed, one thing I have kind of learnt is that trying to get to 100% stability isn't as beneficial as you might think. It does allow you to do various actions, but it's not. But being around 50-60% is good enough, because you can see here that the perks don't actually improve much once you get above a certain level. So you're pushing something up in order to do things like, if we come down to estates, remove these privileges. Non-privileges, one recommendation is that you get rid of this communal lands from the peasants. Well, based on the 1.08 is that you may want to move to go towards decentralization, especially if you're looking to do an aggressive expansion plan, because as I've mentioned, going towards decentralization helps you manage all those vassals that you may accumulate through the overall process. So we've built fish now, so the market, we're building up a little bit here. What we got here, building missing employees. Yeah, we've got a mason in. That's disappeared almost immediately. Yeah, and I think the other thing that I didn't really understand, I won't call it a mistake, is that I went a little bit overboard with the merchants. You need to be a little bit more considered over what you actually want to do with respect to managing these privileges, because they seem to sneak up on you because you get random events, and also in the parliament, which I didn't realize, that you can allocate these actual privileges without really thinking about it. And I think that could be a little bit of a problem here. So that's something else that I would say that you probably do need to kind of consider. And again, something else that's come up is that I think some players are a little bit too obsessed with getting, and I think it comes back to getting massive crown authority. Because if you get really high crown authority and move towards centralization, I think what you're looking at is possibly weakening these down, because that of course gives you more tax, because that will come to the balance here, that the actual tax rate is based on is it the tax rate? This is current satisfaction. The maximum tax is based on the state power, favour the ruler, and all that. So again, like if we come to the Adels, oops, come here. You can see again the state noble estate reduces the maximum tax rate by 2.8. So I think there is a bit of an obsession to say, oh well, we've got to kind of reduce their power as much as possible so that they will pay more taxes. But I think in some ways there are other advantages for having a fairly equal power base. I think the Borean are the ones who lose out the most, aren't they? Yeah, because they got weak state power, they actually pay more tax. So I think that is a sliding. Let me just look at this again. I don't think we get a breakdown of this. So I think balancing your privileges against the tax rate and tax return can be a bit more of a problem here. So we got 33, gain 10 prestige. And we got reasonable prestige. We'll grab the cash, because I think what I would like to do is increase that and just build that back up again to follow through what I was saying. Other things. Oh, the other thing which I've got here, which I actually put on after the end of the last video, I didn't realize you could do this, and I was watching a video, random video, and somebody had this on the right hand side of their screen. This is where you can put goods of interest. You can see here where you can actually see what your prices are and whether they're the balances. So if you've got prices, if you've got goods that you're really interested in, like at the moment I'm interested in the dyes and the fine cloth, because of course what you're looking at is to see what their value is actually in the market, because you can come in here and then kind of look at the supply and demand. You can see at the moment the supply of cloth is oversupplied over the demand, so that means that you come here, you'll see that the price is falling below the base price. So there's probably a case to be made to reduce the amount of fine cloth in the market. And another reason for this is to add the basics of what you need for construction, which is lumber, glass, masonry, and I think there's another one which is sand, which is used for building roads. But what this means is that you can, again, just look at come in here and see the supply of demand. So at the moment we've got oversupply. That should be pushing down the price of glass. Glass is something that you use when you build monastic buildings. So if you can see here, the base price is 2 and the target price is 1.6, and it's fallen to there. So things like glass, lumber, let's see what the target price is 1.50. So as you can see at the moment, lumber is expensive. Now, if we had a big country, we could look at actually reducing the price of lumber, but that does have an effect on what you're actually planning on building. And I think that also applies to masonry. It says it's in balance at the moment. For the point of view of playing Holland, you've got no control until you expand somewhere. But if you're playing a larger country, being able to manipulate those is a lot of a difference. Just notice these castles. I don't ever recall seeing these castles again here. Now, the other the other thing I brought up is, and this is something that we might be able to do in Amsterdam, is building these scriptoriums. And it was almost said as an aside that they were building scriptoriums, and they were saying that there's always a good price for books. Now, I've never really checked in markets. Actually, it's product production would be the better one to do it. So if we go into books, you can see if we come in here into the scriptorium, you can see that the people are actually, there's a demand from the nobles, clerics, and the burghers for books. And you can see that the price is quite high from the perspective of this. And it says default building time. But of course, you can see it's got wood, dyes. So again, oversupply of dyes would be quite good. Paper, I don't think we can actually make at the moment. Multiple layers possible. So I think building this would be quite good. I don't know. You can see it says the demands are for Royal Court, Chancery, Royal Gardens, House of Parliament. So I think books are a pretty good option to actually go for. And I think you can get a good price. I can't really see the price in here. Maybe if we go back to the market. Open the market, search for books. So at the moment, the price of books is because of the demand. Now what's the demand? It says. So what you can see here is that there is a demand because the supply of books doesn't match the demand. That is driving up the price. You can see the market price is 5, but you can see the price is still rising. What the person who was talking about it was saying is that will always go up. That is demand will be constant, and as you move through the ages, that demand will be increased. So for example, what we got here? We need another view. So I think building books is a good one. That's one lesson I have learnt. I'm not kind of trying to think of anything else that... Oh, the other thing also is I think to get this level of control up to here, I should have built more ships, because again, if I show you the control is spreading up here. And again, with the ships there, if we've been able to vassalize Utrecht, and also what's it here? I can't remember what are you called? Who are you? I don't want to hire a privateer. Why would I want to hire a privateer? Frisia here. So if we've been able to vassalize Utrecht and Frisia and then built up this, we would have had a good control moving into this area eventually. So they'd been vassals to begin with, but eventually what we would have been able to do is reabsorb them into, integrate them into our economy. Although, to be honest, I think this would have been easier than Frisia, because I think these are a different culture. But I'm pretty sure there's a way that you can actually do that. So yeah, I should have built my navy up a little bit bigger so that we would have got more control over this area. And the other thing I did learn, I do want to show you, is, where is it? It's in here somewhere. Population satisfaction, proximity to the capital. This is something that I've kind of looked at and I thought, what's it really worth? But I think the real difference is this, that if you click on the map, you can get an idea of how people travel. So like, this is interesting. And I couldn't work this one out to begin with. Then I realized that to get to Armsfoot, and this shows the proximity to the capital. And the reason it's doing this very strange thing is that if I do a Control M, what's actually happening is it's going out from Den Haag, it's going out into the sea tile, and then what the proximity is doing is traveling up the river to here. And probably the way to show, if we go back to proximity, if we click on Utrecht, what you see is that because Utrecht isn't on the river, it's following the road that I built through Leiden. And I accept that Holland is very small, and it's and this isn't particularly that important, because of course we've got total control, well, I wouldn't say total control, but we've got good control over this area. But what that shows me is that if you've got rivers like the one that's running through here, we go back to we got this river here, which I think, is that the Rhine? I think it is the Rhine, isn't it? Or is the Rhine? Yeah, this is the Rhine, isn't it? Because it comes all the way down here. So you've got the Rhine here. So there'd be no point whatsoever to build a road into Dordrecht here, because the river will always have the advantage. Now, later in the game, you may want to build something that's better than the river, but in the beginning of the game, so I think being a lot more aware of the river. Actually, let's just check. See, again, the step is out to here and down to here to Gutenberg here, so as well. So again, it's something that I think I need to pay a lot more attention to. Here we got horses. Here, how much? What's the price on horses at the moment? Price on horses is falling, so that no one's interested. I would guess that horses will get better when you got more proper troops in here as well. So I think I've probably rambled on way too long, and if you're still with me, I'd like to say a big thank you for following the channel and putting up with me staggering through this first learning curve. Hopefully the next one will be a little bit better, because I think working with the bigger market and a bigger country will allow me to put what I've learned here going forward. Never noticed that as well. Oh, there's a little ship sailing out. That's from Brabant though, isn't it? Is it from Brabant? Yeah. Wait, why are your trading ships? Have I got one here? Yeah, I've got one here. Here, look at that. That's pretty cool. hopefully we're going to be able to put that into knowledge. What I will be doing is another video for complete play at newbies, based on Holland and what I've learnt. So this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video and the series. Any comments, opinions, suggestions, feel free to put it in the video description. But until the next series, enjoy your gaming.